Well, hello there, and welcome to another edition of Warbird Wednesday. My name is Fred Bell. I'm here in the European hangar at the Palm Springs Air Museum. Now, we are going to continue down into some what I would call interwar aircraft. This airplane actually came in about the early 1930s. We'll talk about that. The interesting thing about it, it was completely obsolete by the start of World War II. But today, Greg has chosen some fascinating headgear for the Peashooter. He is my gruntled assistant, as opposed to disgruntled. Gruntled, we're going to have to check that one out. But he's gone with the multi-eyed headgear. That's the only thing. Normally there's a theme. The last couple of weeks he has me as a Fräulein. He's done some other things. I'm going to toss this off camera. There we go. And we're going to go ahead and get into this. Now, the Boeing Peashooter, the P-26, the P-26A, if you think about an Art Deco designed airplane or something that screams 1930s, Greg, wouldn't you think that this is probably the airplane? I would think that this is probably the airplane that screams Art Deco, 1930s. It's got that kind of rounded nose, that design, and it's got wheel pants made to look sleek. The reality of this was the first American all-metal fighter that was built. It was the first pursuit aircraft at a squadron level in the Army Air Corps, if you can believe that. It went 234 miles per hour. There were a couple of different versions. The Model 248, which was the prototype, the Boeing Model 248, was the first that flew. Now, it had a challenge, Greg. Do you know what that challenge was? It would flip over. And this is an open cockpit airplane. And if this airplane flips over, you've had a very, very bad day. The Model 266 had a taller tail to correct that, so that gave the pilot a little bit more coverage. Now, interestingly enough, to my right, which you can't see off camera, we've got a PT-19 over there, and the PT-19 has that little bar in the center that's designed to protect the pilots for a rollover. With this, you've kind of got that little hump there, but it is an open cockpit, so they extended the tail there to keep that from crushing the pilot's noggin, which would be a bad thing. So Boeing decided that they were going to get into this business with the pursuit aircraft. As I said, it wasn't terribly fast at 234 miles an hour, but it was a leap forward.
The wonders of modern science and human skill are here displayed at their very best. Aviation has made great strides, and this unbelievable formation clearly portrays its phenomenal progress. In perfect alignment, these sky monarchs gracefully glide thousands of feet above the deep man-made canyons of Manhattan. To spectators thousands of feet below, it appears as though they must surely lock wings, but not these skilled pilots. True masters of the modern control.
Now, there's a Fred fun fact here, Greg. Do you know what the Fred fun fact is? This was Boeing's only entry into fighters until they bought McDonnell Douglas with the Hornet, if you can believe that. This was their first entry and really their last until they purchased McDonnell Douglas with the Hornet. Now, the aircraft served in the interwar period. It had all this bracing. It was not, I would say, terribly maneuverable. It also served with the Chinese. It made it out to the Philippines, and then guess what happened, Greg? World War II. So the Chinese, actually, this is before World War II, the Chinese, it did see combat against A5Ms, Japanese A5Ms. Greg can throw one of those up in post. a lot of the aircraft at this time, now we really associate these wheel pants, these wheel covers, with the Stuka, which is what most people, but a lot of aircraft being designed at that time had wheel pants because they really hadn't figured out the best way to make retractable landing gear, and you wanted a tough airplane, and if the gear doesn't come down, you have a problem. So a lot of these aircraft had wheel pants. The idea was to slick up the make less drag from these wheels. So the fighters that it was up against early in China also had wheel pants, but as we entered World War II, what happened? They went up against Japanese Zeros. Now there are Peashooters that actually fought Japanese Zeros in the Philippines and scored kills, which, if you think about that, that is absolutely insane. Can you imagine this up against an A6M, a Zero? I can't. I just can't imagine it. And to tell you how quickly, and this is how fast technology was advancing at that point, so you get an idea of this airplane against a Japanese Zero. In 1935, you had the introduction of the Hurricane, the ME-109, and the Curtiss P-26. So just a few years after this aircraft is introduced, enclosed cockpit, we're starting to see retractable landing gear. The planes are faster, they're more maneuverable. So by the time World War II broke out, it was completely outclassed. It continued to serve on, and actually squadrons and aircraft continued to serve in Central America, and they were in the United States. They were still flying them with that Wasp engine up front. But they were just, they were relegated to hack duty, and then eventually they were retired. Now I'm going to move on to my salute. And one thing I will do is, let's go ahead, Greg, you can get a plan view of that airplane, throw up a plan view so you get an idea. It is a really fascinating little, what I would call, beast. Now, if you flew one of these in an open cockpit against a Japanese Zero, I'm going to salute you, because you are 3 sets of insane. So today, Greg has gone out and got Ozell's Pineapple Whip. That's what you had to be full of, was Pineapple Whip, if you had to get up and go against these guys. Now, ooh, you know what, Greg? That might be a sell-by date, but if it is, it's in like Czechoslovakian or something. So I don't know where you got this one, but there is no sell-by date. But I want to salute all those interwar pilots, and a lot of them, we've talked about the P-40 coming into service against the Japanese. But if you were flying a Brewster Buffalo or a truly inferior type aircraft at the start of World War II, and you strapped that airplane on and went out every day and knew you probably weren't going to come back, because after the war started, what happened? These guys knew pretty quick they were in trouble against opposition airplanes, and you either wised up or you were dead. And so to the pilots that were flying these airplanes at that time, I want to salute you. You know, Greg, that's like 2 in a row. This isn't incredibly offensive. Again, it's not too, we're going to give the Pineapple Whip a pass. It's not too offensive. It's too sweet for my taste. Too sweet for my taste, but I am going to put it down. Greg's looking at me like, too sweet? It's too sweet. So now we're going to move on to our product placement here, and this is very cool. This is the Boeing advertising collection. So as I said, Boeing didn't do a whole bunch in fighters. They eventually went out and purchased McDonnell Douglas, and that put them back in the fighter business, but they did a whole bunch of other stuff. If you are a Boeing fan, and this is suitable for framing, did you ever do that, Greg? I did that a couple of times, where put the puzzle together and it's so cool, you kind of get it like laminated, and then you put it up on your wall. Greg's looking at it like Oh, you ate too many of the pieces. That's what Greg is saying. Okay, well, see, we have this nonverbal communication, so he's telling me there he ate the pieces. Good job, Greg. But this is a really cool puzzle. Jason can send that to you out of our gift shop. You can pick that up. So go out on the link and get this. Now, I would be remiss. We obviously do not have a P-26. By the way, the P-26A, there were 111 of them built, so that is the most common of the type of the airplane. This model here is absolutely, it was made by Carl Maas, and it is incredible. One of the most amazing things about when you come to the museum about this is that the engine and parts on this aircraft, this model here, were actually 3D printed. So look at the detail and think about, if you're a modeler, the amount of detail that you had to do when you had to carve things. And I used to build models all the time when I was a kid, but this thing is actually printed on a 3D printer. The tube, the little tube there, the sight tube, has optics in it. There's little jewels on the tail, and we're gonna say something and probably get a nasty note from the Smithsonian, but according to the modeler, the paint job on this aircraft is correct, as opposed to the tail on the one in the Smithsonian, which is actually yellow, and it shouldn't be. So I'm going to let the modeler and the Smithsonian fight that one out, but supposedly this paint job on this aircraft is historically accurate. So when you're in the European hangar, come by and check this one out. It is something that I'm so proud that we got into the collection. As we've seen, you've seen a couple of other his models that we have here in the museum. This one is just absolutely incredible. Now, if you want to see a real P-26, we're going to give a shout out for Planes of Fame. They actually have one over in Chino. Go over and check out that one. They usually fly it for their air show every year. I'm not sure how much more they fly it than that, but you can go over and check good old Steve Hinton and Chino out and see a full-size one of these. But you can see, I encourage you to take a look at this exhibit at our museum. It is just amazing stuff. Now, remember, we can't do it without you. So if we earned your subscription today on YouTube, please subscribe on YouTube, like us on YouTube, like us on Facebook. We can't do any of this without your donations. Our folks build all of these displays and they make all these airplanes happen. So please click on that donate button. Remember, there is a full-size version of this airplane over at Planes of Fame. Greg, you can throw the link in there for them to go over and check that out. In the meantime, my name is Fred Bell. I'm the Vice Chairman of the Palm Springs Air Museum. We'll see you again.